FS Securities is a stockbroking firm on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. And every Monday morning I go through what happened globally around the world last few weeks and try to forecast what we may see this coming weeks. I show you how investors and traders may make money on our stock market and globally. I show you what is hot and what is not, and what you should hold and what you should fold. First of all, I like to actually start with what happened on the weekend, and from around the globe we start with the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which had a drop of 0.1%, and the S&P 500 closed slightly up by 0.2%, as you can see here, and so is the Nasdaq Technology Index, was also up by 0.2%. In Europe, the Stoxx 50 index, which comprises most major European markets, was down 0.2%. In London, the FTSE 100 index was down 0.6%, and in Germany, the DAX was almost unchanged. In Japan, the Nikkei was down 0.6%, and in China, the Shanghai index was up 0.7%. On our market on Friday, the market was up for the fourth consecutive day, 27 points higher, and got up to 7,130. Unfortunately, the futures are showing that most likely the market today will open lower by 17 points, down to 7,049. This is the futures numbers, not the raw figures. And gold on Saturday was closed up $7.60 US per ounce and finished at 1,586 US per ounce. Silver was up 12 cents to $17.73. and copper was down, and Brent crude oil was up 1.7%, and West Texas crude oil was up 1.2%. And if you follow soybeans, of course, it's very much the China US trade discussion. Well, soybean was down 0.3%. The Australian dollar was trading at 67.1, that's US cents, 61.99 US euro cents, and also 0.51 British pence. Okay, now what we see here, the changes over 2 weeks. We like to actually see first of all what happened over 1 week, the changes over 1 week, and compare it overall in combining the 2 weeks together. The Dow Jones average last week was up 1%. However, if you combine the 2 weeks together, you find that the Dow had very, very good fortnight, 4% up, 1,142 points. The Nasdaq was up 6.4%, and the broader S&P 500 was up 4.8%. And the US dollar index was up 1.2% over 2 weeks, and the Australian dollar was up 0.3% over the last 2 weeks. Overall, that was actually less percentage gain than what happened last week. So that means last week was positive and the week before was negative. Put the two weeks together, we ended up with 0.3% only. Okay, now in terms of commodities, even though gold was up $13.20 last week, if you could put it together in 2 weeks, it was actually down nearly $4 US per ounce. Silver was also down 29 cents over 2 weeks, 1.6% lower over 2 weeks. And West Texas crude oil was up 1.7% over 2 weeks. It had a good rise last week, but obviously a bad rise the week before, and you put it together, only 1% rise over 2 weeks. That really tells us exactly what's happening overall in comparing the 2 weeks together. So 1 week may be positive, the week before was negative. Overall, you can see the trend overall. Okay, now the next one is our market. And you can see here our market is influenced to a great extent by two major sectors, the financial and the materials. When both of these sectors are up considerably or down considerably, the market usually reacts accordingly. Well, the financials were up 3.7% over 2 weeks. However, the materials, which of course affect BHP, Rio and Fortescue, to name a few, was actually down 1.7%. So overall we had a very good rise in the banks, and in the financial sector overall we had a negative sector influence, which of course the overall market was only up by 1.6%, and most of it happened last week, so the week before wasn't very positive. Okay, looking at the various companies, here you can see that down this line the highest point was actually CBA. CBA was up 7.3% last week, had a good week, and although it was negative the week before. NAB also had a good week, 5.5% last week. It was a negative, or actually slightly up the week before. The other banks, looking here at Westpac, 2.8% last week, and ANZ 2.2% last week, 3.3% over the last 2 weeks, and Westpac 2.3%. So only CBA and NAB were the two banks that outperformed the market last week. We like to look at volume, and you can see here the volume over 2 billion transactions over the last 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Actually it's a rising volume overall compared to what happened 15 days before. 30% of all stocks advanced last Friday and 27% declined. As you can see here, we had 4 beautiful days of positive trending upwards. If you look at the advances over declines week on week, you find here that last week we had more advances than declines, but the previous 2 weeks we had negative weeks. The declines exceeded the advances. Looking at our mechanical system that we have devised over many years, looking at the various indicators on 2 time frames, we have to look at the various strategy. The investor is a long-term trader or long-term investor, and we look at the 2 time frame, the monthly and the weekly, versus the aggressive trader, where we compare the weekly with the daily. First of all, the longer term chart will give an indication to the lower time or the shorter time, and provided the longer term is positive, and of course the slower term has to concur, and provided they both agree whether it's bullish or bearish, we actually have indicators here. So we can see the Dow Jones, for instance, is bullish overall from last week, and that is actually the start of this week. By the way, the market in America is closed tonight because of the President's Day. Gold, on the other hand, started to be bullish, even though Newcrest mines actually had a very bad week last week. However, gold overall ended up to be very bullish. We had actually fluctuating from bearish to neutral, very strong bullish. Actually, you can see that gold at the moment is very volatile, and you have to be very careful about it. We like to see an upward consistent trend before we can actually move into it. And of course, we compare the weekly with the daily. Crude oil, you can see actually slowly bearish, slowly bearish, gradually bearish, more bearish, and then last week we ended up being neutral. Again, volatile market. The only thing you can see here that is very strong bullish, if you compare all the commodities, you have more or less cocoa very bullish several weeks together. The euro also become very bearish against the US dollar. Again, if you want a copy of this slide, all you have to do is talk to us. Now, we also like to look at our recommendations, what we recommended week on week and versus what happened the week before. What happened 2 Saturdays ago, we told you that these were actually the indicators. We were actually bullish on ANZ, and you look at ANZ here, and we continue to be bullish right through from the beginning of the week till the end of the week. We said that CBA were neutral, and however, when you compare that neutral on Saturday to what happened on Monday, we started to be very bullish early in the week and continue to be very, very bullish right through the week. So we did not trade CBA on Monday, but we could have traded CBA on Tuesday. Here, CIMIC, the old Leighton Holdings, very bearish and continues to be bearish, so we're spot on here. Macquarie Bank, again spot on bullish, continues to be bullish. We would have made money on CIMIC on the bearish side and Macquarie Bank on the bullish side. Newcrest Mines, we said we were bearish, and what happened here with Newcrest Mines continues to be bearish, as you can see here. So again, we look at these indicators and we try to determine what is likely or may happen this particular week, the coming week. Remember, of course, that these are available to you on our website every day of the week. Here you can look at the sectors, and you can see the sectors as well. We were actually very bearish on the energy, and as you can see, the energy continued to be bearish until we ended up, now we're still bearish here as well. The financial, we started the week with neutral. However, on Monday, following what traded on Monday, we turned very bullish and continue to remain bullish. Okay, once again, this is available for you if you want it. We also like to look at volume, guys. Volume is very important. Week on week, we can see that these companies had a rise in the price and a rise in the volume. If the price goes up and volume goes up, that's a very good indicator. This is done week on week and available. You can see all these companies had beautiful rise in the price and reasonable rise in the volume above the average. We look at the average volume over 50 weeks, and we look at the volume last week, and if the volume last week exceeds the average volume, then obviously we have an indicator that this particular stock is worthwhile looking at. This is actually the top 50, and down below here we have the mid cap for those who are more aggressive. So West African had a rise of 12% in the price from 47 cents to 53 cents. That's of course week on week, and had a volume of 272. So is it worthwhile looking at West African resources? Of course. Then we've got Arena, Navigator, Global, and again, all these is available to you on the website. Now looking at the daily volume, again, CBA had 2.5% rise last Friday, with 207% of the volume above the average. Again, NAB had a very good day on Friday, and Transurban had a good day on Friday. Goodman Group also had a good reasonable volume rise. On the downside, Woodside Petroleum, the price dropped by 2.7%, and the volume was double the actual average daily volume. On the mid-cap, Arena, that's a real estate company, the price went up by 2.5% and the volume was 183% above the average. On the downside, we have Southern Cross Media. The price dropped by nearly 5.6% and the volume was 122% above the average. Okay, finally, I want to show you that this time last week, we told you what we traded the week before, and we also had a good week because we had some good profit. Well, this week, that is actually from last Monday to last Friday, you can see here, our profit actually was nearly $1,000. That's actually 100% profit over the full week. We had a very good week last week. Finally, this is actually the disclaimer, and the disclaimer means that everything we said today is only of general advice only, and that there is no guarantee that everything we said is going to turn gold. You need to be careful. There is no guarantee. There are too many variables, and before you do anything at all, please consult with us or with your professional advisor. If you have any questions, all you have to do is ask us. You can send me an email at george@fssecurities.com.au, or you can call me on my mobile. I'm available 7 days a week, almost 12 hours every day. You can put 61 if you're ringing from overseas. 61, that's the country code. You don't need the 0 for overseas dialers. So 61-411-259526. Once again, our website is www.fssecurities.com. Happy trading, and I hope you had a good week.